Hello, good evening, and welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm Joel Richard, and first a quick look at the top stories this evening. House overwhelmingly backs bill forcing DOJ to release Jeffrey Epstein files. Trump administration moves to strip Education Department powers, shift programs to other agencies. 23 House Democrats join GOP to rebuke progressive Representative Chu Garcia over election maneuver. Judge dismisses DOJ challenge to New York law limiting ICE arrests at state courthouses. And ICE arrests Uzbek terror suspect driving commercial truck as Homan blames lax vetting under Biden. And now to the news. The House of Representatives has voted 427-1 to compel the Department of Justice to release files related to Jeffrey Epstein, advancing a rare, strongly bipartisan measure aimed at expanding transparency around the long-running case. The bill, led by Representative Thomas Massie and Representative Ro Khanna, follows months of pressure from lawmakers in both parties. Now, several of Epstein survivors watched from the House chamber and cheered when the measure, known as the Epstein Files Transparency Act, passed. Representative Clay Higgins cast a lone vote against the bill and later explained his position in a post on X. He argued that, as written, the legislation could expose thousands of innocent people named in investigative files, such as witnesses, family members, and others not accused of crimes, and leave them vulnerable to public scrutiny and media attention. Now, Higgins said the House Oversight Committee has already released more than 60,000 pages of Epstein-related documents through its own investigation and indicated he could support a revised bill if the Senate adds stronger privacy protections for victims and other uncharged individuals. House GOP leaders had voiced similar concerns about the risk of revealing victims' identities and other sensitive information, even as they ultimately backed the measure. Speaker Mike Johnson said he would vote for the bill despite warnings that broad disclosure could deter future whistleblowers and informants or inadvertently expose undercover law enforcement officers. At the same time, many Republicans say they felt pressure to support the measure in light of public demands for transparency and also President Donald Trump's signal that he backs releasing the files. The bill now moves to the Senate, where its path is very unclear. Supporters, including Massie and Khanna, urged senators not to muck it up by adding changes that would block or significantly narrow disclosure, while saying they are open to additional safeguards for survivors. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has not announced how he will proceed, but Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said he will push to bring the bill up quickly and accused Republicans of previously trying to shield Trump and delay the release of information. Now, any Senate amendments would have to be reconciled with the House before a final version could go to the president's desk. Let's take a look.
The yeas are 427, the nays are 1.
A vote to force the Justice Department to publicly release its files on late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has been passed in the House of Representatives. It's the culmination of a months-long effort that has overcome opposition from President Donald Trump and Republican leadership. The push for more disclosure in the years-old sex trafficking investigation into Epstein has come roaring back since the House returned to Washington after a nearly 2-month absence during the government shutdown. As lawmakers returned last week, they were greeted by new details from a tranche of Epstein's emails, including claims that Trump had spent hours at Epstein's house with a sex trafficking victim, and that he, quote, knew about the girls. Trump had said he cut ties with Epstein years ago. Many in the Republican base, Democrats, and survivors of Epstein's abuse have pushed for the release of the files.
I beg you, President Trump, please stop making this political. It is not about you, President Trump.
I know everybody sees us today as grown adults, but we are fighting for the children that were abandoned and left behind in the reckoning.
The U.S. president bowed to the growing momentum and said Monday that he would sign the bill if it passes the Senate.
You urged House Republicans to vote in favor of this Epstein release bill they're going to vote on tomorrow. I just want to be super clear on your position. Do you want to see that pass the Senate? Would you sign that bill if it gets to your desk?
I do want to. Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. We've done a great job. And I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it.
Epstein killed himself in a Manhattan jail while awaiting trial in 2019 on charges he sexually abused and trafficked underage girls. Now that the House has passed the bill, it moves to the Senate.
In other news, the Trump administration has announced that the Department of Education has signed a series of interagency agreements to shift authority over several of its offices and programs to other federal agencies, framing the move as a major step toward dismantling the department. Education Secretary Linda McMahon said the effort is intended to break up the federal education bureaucracy and return education to the states, adding that the department is working with Congress and states to streamline programs while maintaining services. The agreements involve the Departments of Labor, Health and Human Services, State, and the Interior, which will either co-manage or take on an expanded role in administering certain programs. Under the new arrangements, the Department of Labor will establish an elementary and secondary education partnership focused on empowering parents and states, and will take a growing role in managing higher education grant programs. The Department of the Interior will assume a larger role in administering Indian education programs. The Education Department also reached agreements with Health and Human Services to handle foreign medical accreditation issues and to also help launch a Child Care Access Means Parents in School program to promote on-campus childcare for college students. Now, in addition, a new partnership with the State Department will oversee international education and foreign language studies programs. Senior Education Department officials said the use of interagency agreements is a long-standing tool, noting that previous administrations, including the Biden administration, used similar arrangements to carry out federal initiatives. They argued that shifting responsibilities will tap agencies with more direct expertise, reduce overlapping bureaucracy in Washington, and improve services for schools, families, and grantees. The announcement follows President Donald Trump's March executive order directing McMahon to take all necessary steps to facilitate closure of the Department of Education and return education authority to states and local communities, while ensuring federal funds and programs continue to flow. In other news on legislation, the House has approved a resolution of disapproval against Representative Jesus Chu Garcia after critics accuse him of manipulating the timing of his retirement to benefit his chosen successor in a safely Democratic district. The measure, introduced by moderate Democrat Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, passed 236 to 183 with 23 Democrats siding with Republicans and 4 lawmakers voting present. Perez argued that Garcia's actions undermined the spirit of a free and fair election by limiting voters' ability to choose among multiple candidates. The clash created a public rift inside the Democratic caucus, to say the least, with party leaders urging members to oppose the resolution. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries praised Garcia as a longtime progressive advocate and said he strongly supported him, insisting that Americans are focused on issues like the cost of living, rather than internal party disputes. In a joint statement, Jeffries, Democratic Whip Catherine Clark, and Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar called the resolution misguided and said Garcia has consistently prioritized his constituents even while facing personal family difficulties. Perez, however, told colleagues she was not questioning Garcia's character, but the way his exit was handled. She said that 1 week before the Illinois filing deadline, Garcia filed for re-election and submitted signatures, then days later began gathering signatures for his chief of staff, who shares his last name. Now, according to Perez, Garcia's chief of staff filed to run just hours before the deadline with at least 2,500 signatures, listing Garcia's as the first signature, effectively ensuring that the staffer would be the only viable candidate able to qualify in time. Garcia defended his decision on the House floor, citing his wife's recent multiple sclerosis diagnosis with his own health and a desire to spend more time with his newly adopted grandson as reasons for stepping aside. Watch this.
House Resolution 878, resolution disapproving the behavior of Representative Jesus G. Chuy Garcia of Illinois.
The 4-term congressman announced his retirement after previously saying he'd run again. That announcement came just after the deadline, ensuring his chief of staff, Patty Garcia, would be the only Democrat on the ballot. The 2 Garcias are not related. The resolution passed with votes from 213 Republicans and 23 Democrats. In the Illinois delegation, Democrats Bill Foster and Eric Sorensen voted for the measure, along with Republicans Darren LaHood, Mary Miller, and Mike Bost. The rest of the Illinois delegation voted against. 183 Democrats voted against it in all.
More news around the United States tonight. A federal judge has thrown out a Trump administration lawsuit challenging New York's restrictions on immigration arrests at state courthouses, ruling that the federal government cannot compel states to assist in civil immigration enforcement. U.S. District Judge May DeGastino on Monday granted New York's motion to dismiss the case, which targeted a 2020 law known as the Protect Our Courts Act and related state directives. Now, the decision marks a setback for the administration's broader legal push against state and local policies that restrict cooperation with federal immigration authorities. The Protect Our Courts Act prohibits federal immigration officers from arresting people who are entering, leaving, or present at New York state courthouses for proceedings, unless agents have a warrant signed by the judge. The statute was enacted in response to increased immigration enforcement actions at courthouses during President Donald Trump's first term and does not apply to federal immigration courts. The Department of Justice argued that the law and associated executive orders unlawfully obstructed federal immigration operations and also interfered with the execution of federal law. In her ruling, D'Agostino said New York's decision not to participate in enforcing civil immigration law is protected by the 10th Amendment, which limits the federal government's ability to direct state and local officials. She also wrote that the United States had failed to identify any federal statute requiring states to help with immigration enforcement and that such a mandate would be very unconstitutional. The 10th Amendment prohibits Congress from conscripting state and local officials and resources to assist with federal regulatory schemes like immigration enforcement, the opinion stated. A Justice Department spokesperson responded that President Donald Trump's immigration enforcement agenda remains a top national security and public safety priority, and vowed that the department would continue to defend it in the court. Let's take a look.
The ruling affirmed New York's Protect Our Courts Act, throwing out claims of federal immunity and intergovernmental immunity violations. The law shields individuals attending court proceedings, including parties, witnesses, and family members, from civil arrest without a judicial warrant. The DOJ lawsuit argued that laws violated the Constitution's Supremacy Clause, which states that federal law supersedes conflicting state laws. The judge refuted that argument, saying New York was protecting its sovereign interests in the face of undue federal interference.
The news will continue after this break.
In a world that's always moving, staying connected to the right resources makes all the difference. Welcome to the Loveworld App Store, the digital home of everything that powers your journey in the Loveworld nation. Here, discovery is simple and meaningful. With our categories section, you can explore a wide range of apps designed to enrich your spirit.
I'm praying especially for you. You that have been sick. You need a miracle.
On the Loveworld App Store, you can access all your favorite apps, such as Healing School app, King's Chat, PCDL, Rhapsody app, Love Tunes, ESPYs, Loveworld Worship, Herald app, Alpha TV, King's View, C-Flix, Hello Loveworld, PCDL for kids, King's Conference, and so much more. Each application is created to serve a unique purpose and bring you closer to a life of impact. Explore My App feature, where your most valued tools are gathered in one convenient place. It's your personalized hub, ready whenever you are. The Loveworld App Store is more than a collection of apps. It's a vibrant ecosystem built to inspire faith, foster connection, and equip you for impact. Visit www.lwappstore.com to download the app on your device. Explore a world where purpose meets technology. Loveworld App Store. All your world in one place.
Welcome back. We've received news tonight that ICE has arrested an Uzbek national in Kansas who had been working as a commercial truck driver despite being wanted in his home country for alleged ties to a terrorist organization. The suspect in mention, identified as Akhor Bozorov, was taken into custody on November 9th while driving a truck. Uzbek authorities had issued an arrest warrant for Bozorov in 2022, accusing him of membership in a terrorist group, distributing propaganda and calling for jihad online. Bozorov had obtained a commercial driver's license in Pennsylvania in January 2024. raising new questions about how individuals with terror flags overseas are able to enter the United States and secure sensitive positions. This should go without saying, but terrorist illegal aliens should not be operating 18-wheelers on American highways, Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement. Now, ICE also released an image of Bazarov CDL, underscoring federal concerns about gaps in the licensing and vetting process. White House border czar Tom Homan said the case shows serious flaws in how the Biden administration has handled migrants released into the country. He argued that officials were lying to the American people when they claimed all migrants were properly vetted, and pointed to federal law requiring that those who enter illegally without proper documentation shall be detained, not released. Homan said failing to detain such individuals makes it harder for authorities to identify potential terrorists before they embed themselves in U.S. communities and also critical industries. Watch this.
From Uzbekistan saying he is wanted in his native country for distributing propaganda and recruiting terrorists. Agents arresting him while he was driving an 18-wheeler in Kansas. Pennsylvania issued him a commercial driver's license after the Biden administration let him in more than 2 years ago.
In other news, a major minerals project in Arctic Alaska is being touted as a potential game changer in the global race for critical materials, with new discoveries that could undercut China's long-standing dominance in the rare earth markets. The Graphite 1 project near Nome, already known for hosting the largest graphite deposit in the United States, has now confirmed the presence of multiple rare earth elements. Now, the development comes as the United States, which has been more than 90% import dependent on both graphite and rare earths, seeks to strengthen domestic supply under President Donald Trump's American energy dominance agenda. Now, the rare earths identified at Graphite Creek include neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, and terbium, elements heavily used in high-strength magnets, batteries, renewable energy technology, fiber optics, and consumer electronics. Project geologists also reported ore containing garnet, noting that garnet can absorb certain rare earths into its mineral structure. Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy has promoted the project in his State of the State address, calling it the largest of its kind in North America and highlighting Alaska's role as a key domestic source of strategic metals and minerals for defense, energy, and advanced manufacturing. Now, the discovery builds on other U.S. efforts to identify and recover critical minerals outside of China, including earlier work in Pennsylvania's anthracite coal region, where deposits have been found to contain multiple rare earth elements. While large-scale extraction there has lagged behind progress in Alaska, researchers at Penn State recently announced techniques to recover cobalt, manganese, and nickel from acid mine drainage and fly ash. Taken together, these developments point to a broader push to build up U.S. capacity in critical minerals and reduce Beijing's leverage over supply chains that underpin everything from national defense systems to electric vehicles and also consumer technology. Now, speaking of technology tonight, Meta has scored a major legal victory after a federal judge rejected a Federal Trade Commission antitrust lawsuit that sought to force the company to spin off Instagram and WhatsApp. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg ruled that the FTC failed to prove Meta currently holds monopoly power in social networking, a requirement for the agency to prevail. The decision stands in contrast to recent court rulings against Google, where judges found illegal monopolies in search and digital advertising. Now, in his opinion, Boasberg said the FTC relied too heavily on an outdated picture of Meta's market position and did not adequately account for how competition has changed in recent years. Now, while the agency argued Meta maintained its dominance under a buy rather than compete strategy, pointing to Facebook's high-profile acquisitions of Instagram in 2012 and WhatsApp in 2014, the judge noted that those deals were approved at the time and that regulators must show a current or imminent legal violation to unwind them now. He concluded that the FTC's narrowly drawn market definition failed to capture the broader social media ecosystem. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, testifying in April, pushed back on claims that Instagram was purchased to neutralize a threat, with company lawyers emphasizing how much the landscape has shifted since the FTC first sued in 2020. Boasberg echoed that view, observing that earlier rulings in the case did not even mention TikTok, which he now described as Meta's fiercest rival. Meta welcomed the ruling, saying it confirms the company faces fierce competition from other platforms and also continues to innovate. Yeah, don't go anywhere. The news continues after this break.
It's easy to set up, quick to start, and packed with value. Smarter streaming starts here with the Alpha TV Stick. Just plug and stream anytime, anywhere. Discover a curated lineup of content designed to inspire, live broadcasts and global events, inspirational films and series, children's programming, healing and teaching sessions, all on demand. With millions of downloads worldwide, the Alpha TV app is transforming lives across the globe. And now, we're on a mission to reach 1 billion downloads of the Alpha TV app, and you can be part of it. Join the global wave with 1 billion Alpha TV app downloads worldwide. Bring the higher life into every home. Order your Alpha TV Stick today and experience smarter streaming. Alpha, the higher life is here.
And on the international front, Japan's struggling economy faces fresh pressure as a diplomatic clash with China threatens a key driver of growth, inbound tourism. After Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said a Chinese attempt to seize Taiwan by force would create a survival-threatening situation for Japan and could trigger Japanese support for U.S. military action, Beijing responded by warning its citizens against traveling to Japan. Tourism-related stocks in Tokyo fell following the advisory, and analysts warn a prolonged decline in Chinese visitors could deepen Japan's economic slowdown. Mainland Chinese tourists accounted for about 5.7 million visitors so far in 2025, nearly 23% of all foreign arrivals. Now, according to Japan's National Tourism Organization, the dispute has quickly escalated beyond words. After China's consul general in Osaka posted and later deleted a remark saying the dirty neck that sticks itself in must be cut off, Tokyo summoned Beijing's ambassador in protest, while China in turn summoned Japan's envoy. Beijing has issued travel warnings, and Chinese ships and drones have operated near the disputed Senkaku and Diaoyu Islands, prompting Japan to scramble fighter jets. Let's take a look.
Japan has warned its citizens in China to step up safety precautions and avoid crowds. That's as the most serious diplomatic clash in years continues between the two countries. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi sparked the dispute after suggesting that a Chinese attack on Taiwan could trigger a military response from Tokyo. A Japanese envoy met his counterpart in Beijing on Tuesday to try and dispel tensions, but there were no signs of breakthrough. China's foreign ministry said it had pressed at the meeting for Takaichi to retract her remarks, but a top Japanese official suggested Tokyo was in no mood to do so. Beijing has urged its citizens not to travel to Japan, sending tourism-related stocks in Japan plunging. Chinese people form the largest number of tourists to the country, official figures show, accounting for nearly a quarter. Meanwhile, Chinese state media has aimed vitriolic commentary at Takaichi, and a Chinese diplomat has posted threatening comments about her online. It's prompted Japan's embassy to encourage citizens living in China to respect local customs, not travel alone, and take extra care when with children. Beijing claims democratically governs Taiwan as its own and has not ruled out using force to take control of the island. Taiwan's government rejects Beijing's claims. Taiwan is located just over 68 miles from Japanese territory, and the waters around it offer a vital sea route for Tokyo's trade. Japan also hosts the largest contingent of US military overseas. Tokyo on Tuesday said that the government hoped issues over Taiwan would be resolved peacefully through dialogue.
Over in Africa, South Africa's foreign minister has accused unnamed organizers of a broader agenda to clear Palestinians out of Gaza and the West Bank, after a charter plane carrying 153 Palestinians landed in Johannesburg last week. Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola said the circumstances surrounding the flight, which originated from Israel's Ramon Airport and stopped in Kenya before arriving at OR Tambo International Airport, appeared to be part of a coordinated effort to relocate Palestinians to multiple countries. He said Pretoria does not want additional flights, arguing that they amount to an attempt to cleanse out the Palestinians out of Gaza and the West Bank. The Israeli authority responsible for civilian affairs in the Palestinian territories said the passengers left Gaza under an Israeli government policy that allows residents to depart when a third country agrees to receive them, but did not name that country. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered an intelligence investigation into who was behind the chartered flight. Authorities said the Palestinians on board, including families, children, and a woman 9 months pregnant, did not initially have the proper documentation to enter South Africa or the required exit documents from Israel. They were held on the tarmac for about 12 hours before being granted entry, a move that drew criticism from rights groups, even as Lamola insisted Pretoria would resist further flights in the future. Watch this.
Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola said the airplane was part of a broader agenda to clear out Gaza and the West Bank of its Palestinian residents through a network of chartered flights. His comments were seen as accusing Israel of being behind what he described as a clearly orchestrated operation. Israel said the Palestinians on the chartered plane to South Africa left the Gaza Strip after it received approval from a third country to receive them. The aircraft at the center of the incident arrived in Johannesburg on Thursday with 153 Palestinian travelers on board. South African authorities said the passengers did not have the correct documents to travel to South Africa or proper exit documents from Israel. The Palestinians were initially left stranded on the airport tarmac for about 12 hours before being granted entry into South Africa.
Just before we end the news tonight, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news tonight, a quick recap of the top headlines. House overwhelmingly backs bill forcing DOJ to release all Jeffrey Epstein files. Trump administration moves to strip Education Department powers, shift programs to other agencies. 23 House Democrats join GOP to rebuke Progressive Representative Chu Garcia over election maneuver. Judge dismisses DOJ challenge to New York law limiting ICE arrests at state courthouses. ICE arrests Uzbek terror suspect driving commercial truck as Homeland blames lax vetting under Biden. And that's the news for tonight. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Joel Richards signing off. God bless you, God bless our armed forces, and God bless the United States of America.